Basically, when the slide shows up, this is advance, but if you screw up, that's the back. And this is like a spotlight.
Yes.
All right, so I'll hand it to you.
All right, great, thank you. Just in case.
No.
Yeah. That's great.
That would be, you can tell my favorite number. Yeah, that would be my number.
She's heard this so fast. She's late. Okay, I've heard the same thing. So I think that would be a positive. Yes, oh, definitely. Okay. Spotted in the crowd. I'll love it.
We can reconvene our meeting to open session. The board has been in executive session since 6 o'clock to address 2 personnel matters and 2 confidential legal matters. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Introductions.
Dave Hurst.
Willow Bear.
Jonathan Fishbein.
Meredith Moriarty.
Jody Monroe.
Holly Dellenbaugh.
Christine Beck.
Wendy Sampson.
Catherine Nadeau.
And Judy Kehoe.
First on our agenda tonight is our approval of minutes. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the March 16th, 2022 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Next are our meeting reports, and first up is our superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. We have some recognitions tonight, and I see Melanie Painter. Where's Melanie? We have some art students that we'd like to recognize this evening, and with some displays of their artwork that were selected for the 23rd Annual High School Regional Juried Art Exhibition. So, Melanie,
Yeah,
if you want to begin.
Every year, we submit 25 pieces of artwork from Bethlehem High School. We had 9 pieces selected this year, and I have 3 of the students came with us today. If you would like to see their artwork in person, is on display at the Albany Center Galleries until April 22nd. And all 3 of them also have a piece on display at the Bethlehem Public Library. There's a show there from April 1st until April 30th if you'd like to see them a little bit closer to home. So if you wouldn't mind taking a look at some of these. Corinne Anderson is not here this evening. She actually is at a softball game. Corinne submitted this piece into the Scholastic Art Association Award as well. She earned a gold key in New York State and also received, we just found out, she received a silver award for a national award for this piece too.
That's great.
And Nia is here. Nia is here. Nia Hughes created this piece in advanced photography. And Corinne also created this piece. This is a sculpture piece. She won the 3D award for this piece. It's hard to see in the picture, but this is actually a 2-part piece. It's laser etched on the outside, and on the inside it's watercolor painting, so it's 2 pieces that are meshed together. This is Joy Wu. She created this in drawing and painting. And it's actually a scratchboard piece. And this is Alicia Prieto. She's not here this evening either. This is a piece that she created for her AP Art and Design portfolio. This is Lee Scalaro. And Lee is here this evening too. Lee created this in Studio and Media Arts. And this is Owen's piece. Owen is here this evening, too. He came right from play practice, right? So Owen has actually won several awards. We keep, what's nice about having photography is we can keep putting this in all different shows. So Owen actually won an award for this one as well. He won the Jurors Award for this in the regional. And he just got an honorable mention for this in the 2022 Capital Region Media Arts Festival as well. So these pieces, I think, is that the end of the show? Oh, with Sierra Doherty, created this one. She's in grade 9. This is another scratchboard piece. And Robin Aronson created this piece for her AP portfolio. She's doing a whole series on body image. That is it. So you can actually see all 3 of their pieces at the Bethlehem Public Library or at the Albany Center Galleries. And these are some of the most prestigious awards that we have this year to have our pieces selected for this. So I'd like to congratulate the 3 of them for participating in this and being here this evening.
If they want to come up.
Would they want to tell us a little bit about the piece, like a little bit behind it?
Oh, you can ask. Hold on. First, I'm going to get them their pins.
Would any of you feel comfortable talking about what you drew and the inspiration behind it, like where it came from? It's fine if you don't. It's just very interesting. Just go. You gotta go back to the mic, though.
Yeah, you have to speak into the mic so they can hear you at home.
Just watch the chords.
Owen's mom actually sent me several pictures of him taking the picture after the last.
Yeah, it was a really happy coincidence that she happened to be. Taking the pictures at that time, I was at the Empire Plaza, and this is actually a picture of the State Museum at the Empire Plaza there, that stairs behind the State Museum, and I'm really happy and grateful for all the awards it's got and the places it's going, and I'm just happy so many people like it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
This was one of my favorite projects we did this year for abandoned photography, and I took this at an abandoned factory in Connecticut, and it was just really cool to look at like different places, abandoned places, and
It captured it really well.
thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. This one was made fully on Illustrator. We were just instructed to make any landscape, and I chose a wooded one because I've always loved the woods. But I've also added like other things to it that make it more mystical, like the lake underneath it with the moon, and also that it's a nice color palette. So yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Mrs. Painter. Thank you, and for all the other art teachers who help support the students. Every time I see our student artwork, I'm reminded how non-artistic I am. So thank you for that reminder. Next, I would like to announce the NYSSBA announced the winner 2022 Scholar Athlete teams, and I'm pleased to announce that our boys and girls basketball teams, boys and girls indoor track and field, girls bowling, and gymnastics were all announced to be Scholar Athlete teams for the winter 2022 season. Next, we have another recognition. Mr. Matt Bixby has been nominated for an award, and I'm going to ask our former middle school principal, Miss Sandy Morley, who's here, to come up, and she's going to provide some information about Matt Bixby's honor tonight.
Thanks. So happy to be here.
I asked her if she still actually had those work clothes.
Yeah, I said barely. Yeah. So thank you to you, Superintendent Monroe, and the board for taking a few minutes. I know we have some other things to celebrate tonight, which is fantastic, but it's always nice to bring some celebration into what's happening in our world for sure. So as Jody said, I'm a retired principal from the middle school, but I'm also very involved with the association that's making this award tonight. It's the Capital Zone of the New York State Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. And this district has been very involved in that association for many years. It has over 4,000 professionals in the field, and it was instrumental in developing the New York State standards and the guidance document in health. So it's a very active association. Normally, we would be awarding this to Matt at our Student Leadership Awards, which we have every year at Hudson Valley Community College. Unfortunately, for the past 3 years, because of COVID, we have not had them in person. So I would like to say, Matt, that normally we'd have him in front of about 5,000 or 6,000 people. But in lieu of that, we really wanted the Bethlehem community, the school community, to be aware of this award for Matt. So Matt's been with the district 15 years. He was hired as a physical educator at the middle school, went back, got his health certification, went to the high school, taught health, coached at the high school, currently is your girls varsity golf coach, and is teaching health full-time at the middle school. He was a really great hire, don't you think?
I think so.
Yeah. So if we have not learned anything in the past 2 years, we must recognize how important all of our teachers, not just our health teachers, are to our students in navigating this new world that we're living in. In our health classes, Mr. Bixby affords students the opportunity to explore real-world problems and deal with a standards-based, scientifically based, and skill-based curriculum, which is very student-centered. Being aware and creating healthy environments are the basis for the instruction in his class. And he sees an incredible need for students to explore and gain competency in the areas such as self-management in terms of mental health, which we know is important, especially important now, social needs, stress management, communication, decision-making, planning, and goal setting, which they do in their advocacy project, to name just a few of the strands that are covered in health class. Mr. Bixby provides a safe, emotional place for his students in what can be a very confusing time in their life, especially at the 8th grade level. And he provides instruction which is pertinent to today's world and today's student. What has always impressed me is Mr. Bixby's positive and very easy connection with students. If you've not had a chance to visit his classroom, I suggest you pop in. Just go, because you will be impressed with what you see. I will also tell you that New York State AFERD is proud to note that Matt is the 3rd Bethlehem health teacher who has been recognized in this fashion, not only at the local level, but then again at the state level. So you're doing something pretty well. It doesn't mean there aren't good health educators out there, but Bethlehem has kind of cornered the market on the health teachers, so good for you. And at this point, I'd like to just introduce Joanne Sabrin, is our committee chairperson for our Teacher of the Year selection from the Capital Zone of New York State AFERD, and Jen Murphy-Fries, who nominated Matt for this award, your supervisor in physical education. And I appreciate the support that there are other physical education teachers and health education teachers that have worked with Matt. So Matt, it's my pleasure to congratulate you on being the 2022 New York State AFERD Capital Zone Health Teacher of the Year.
So if there would have normally been a couple thousand people clapping, we just have to clap louder, is what I'm hearing.
Are we getting photos over in the corner, Joellen?
Should we
Do you want to?
Yeah, want to get a picture? Yeah, we will.
And last but not least, I wanted to recognize one of our students, Eliza Cotton, who was awarded the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Taking the Pulse of the Planet Award. This was part of the Regeneron Greater Capital Region Science and Engineering Fair in March, and is presented to a student whose research emphasizes NOAA's mission of science, service, and stewardship. The Science Fair recognized students' original research in 21 different categories, from animal science to engineering mechanics to systems software. And Eliza presented research on air pollutants and birth weight, differentiating county and census tract level relations that sought to determine if air pollutants vary by birth weight, race, ethnicity, location, education level, and gestational age. So congratulations to Eliza. Sounds like a lot of work. Yes. And that's my report for this evening. Yes. That's all. I already announced that last time.
Next up is our board report. And I just have one thing. I just wanted to wish the best to the cast and crew of Les Mis, which is opening this coming weekend. The performances are Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7 and Sunday at 2. And tickets are available at the door for anybody who would still like to go. Does anybody have anything else they would like to share?
I just want to put a plug out there for the art students again. The Bethlehem Library does have a really beautiful display of all grades art, and it's really fun.
Thanks, Wendy.
Really impressive.
And I just wanted to add, even though Mr. Bixby, I don't see him in here any longer, my 3 children had him, I think, once, twice, so between the 3 of them, at least 5 times, and they all had rave reviews, so I know he is well deserving of that award, and very happy to see that he got it.
Next are our student reports. Do we have anybody from the high school student senate tonight?
Oh, yes, sir. Nobody's here.
Do we have anyone from the middle school student council?
Good evening. My name is Maxine Lee. I'm in 6th grade Mohawk. Some student council updates are that we are planning several spirit days that are coming soon. We are also planning a welcome for our 5th grade friends when they visit on May 27th for their 5th grade orientation. Some character committee updates are that our March Hero of the Month is Sally Ride, who is both a physicist and the first American woman to go to space. Our April nominees will be decided next week. Our character t-shirts will be distributed later this week to more than 600 students and staff. The other big event at school is that this Friday, April 8th, is the end of the 3rd quarter. Our student council wishes you all a happy spring. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine. And next, I think we have some guests from Eagle with us tonight.
I think I know how to do this. There we go. Is that good?
It reaches me now. Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm Isabel Cassione, and here with me are Taylor Babick, Luke Zimmerman, and Tom Whalen. Tonight we will be sharing our reading initiative at Eagle. Our reading initiative actually started last summer when a group of teachers and Miss Reagan met to figure out how we could increase student reading at Eagle.
The teachers already knew that reading is the key to all learning and life success. And math problems are often reading problems. And did you know that a child who can't read on grade level by 3rd grade is 4 times less likely to graduate from high school on time than a child who reads proficiently by that time? And not being able to read often may cause anxiety.
The teachers also found out that the more a student reads, the better they do in school. The more minutes a student reads per night, the better they did on standardized tests. You can see from this chart there's a big difference when a student reads 20 minutes per day or 1 minute per day. Child C reads 1 minute per day, which is 180 minutes per school year. This puts them on the 10th percentile on standardized tests. Child B reads 5 minutes per day, which is 900 minutes per school year. This puts them in the 50th percentile. Child A reads 20 minutes per day, which is 3,600 minutes per school year. This puts them in the 90th percentile. As you can see from the data on this graph, Child C reads about 1 book per school year, Child B about 5, and A reads about 15.
The Eagle teachers decided to call our independent reading books bird books. Get it? Bird, eagle.
Building independent readers daily. Actually, in Tommy's class, they refer to it as books I read daily. Either way, all the students in the school, K through 5, refer to them as bird books. We wanted a common name that we would all share. We were hoping bird books would increase each student's time with eyes on text and build a culture of loving to read at Eagle. To support our bird books, the teachers had 4 big ideas. The first idea is to have books at arm's reach when students were at their desks. This is so kids can quickly grab a book when they are finished with work. Each teacher decided how they would do this in their classrooms. Some ordered book bags to keep on their chairs or desks like these. And some just made sure books were always on top of their desks like this.
The second idea was to fill our hallways with reading bulletin boards, showcasing our reading in each classroom. Here are a few examples. This picture is outside my classroom, Mr. Urban's room. As you can see, it says, "I did a read," based off the Iditarod, a famous Alaskan race. The Iditarod is about 1,000 miles, so our goal was to read 1,000 minutes.
This year, we are rejuvenating our 1000s Book Club. The 1000s Book Club started over 20 years ago. The idea is family can come and pick up a bag of books for free from the school. They then return the bag of books at their convenience to Eagle. This is available to all students in the school, including preschoolers who have not even entered kindergarten yet. There are 100 book bags with 10 books in each bag. So if they read all 100 bags, they would have read 1,000 books. When you read all 1,000 books, you get a prize from the school. This is a picture of the book bag, and this is a picture of the calendar that the parents use to keep track of the book bags they get.
And the last idea was to build a little free library on Eagle's playground. The Little Free Library is a global community made up of 112 different countries. The libraries are registered on the website's map, and families can download an app to find the nearest library. Thanks to the Eagle PTO for purchasing the free library. This is currently in the works, and we hope to have it up and running by the summer.
And to end our presentation tonight, we would like to leave you with a quick thought of how this reading initiative has helped us individually. Personally, I have simply never read so much in school because I always had to dig through my desk to find my book. And believe me, I'm not a very neat guy. That was a lot of work. But now I can grab my book quickly and start reading, and I've read a ton.
Because of bird books, I've read more than I've ever read in my life.
In my classroom, we had a party on Friday. The party was for all students who read 1,000 minutes, and my bird books definitely helped me reach that goal. And some of my classmates and I are now way beyond 1,000 minutes.
When I was stuck at home for a day and I had nothing to do, I chose to read. I actually ended up reading for 4 hours. I think bird books definitely inspired me to do that.
We hope you enjoyed our presentation tonight. Now go home and read.
Do it!
Thank you. So, would any of you guys mind sharing what books you're reading right now?
I'm reading Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Oh, I like that one.
I'm reading the series called Warriors, and I'm on the 4th book of the series.
Great.
I'm reading Wings of Fire. I recently finished the 7th book and is now in the 8th book.
I'm reading The Five Kingdoms, the 3rd book, which is by Brandon Mull, which if you don't know is really related to Rick Riordan.
Those all sound great. You guys want to come up here?
You did a fabulous job. Awesome.
Anybody else have any questions for our Eagle friends? Thanks so much for coming, guys. Next on our agenda tonight is our presentation, and Judy Kehoe will be doing a budget overview, and then we can have any discussion that's needed.
So, of course, there's a wonderful connection between reading and math, the subject of tonight's presentation. So, tonight is the wrap-up of our budget. After many weeks of reviewing our different subject areas, we are prepared to adopt the budget. So we will have aligned our finances with our strategic plan and goals. And I'm just going to give a few very quick recap slides. And reminder, all of this information is on our website, so if anybody wanted additional details on any of these topic areas, they can look at the full presentations off of the website. So we had very few changes to the baseline budget as part of this year's review, and it really only encompassed 4 different areas, and those changes totaled about $385,000 that was added to our baseline expenditures. And the budget that we present for adoption tonight is at $102,698,000. So just to quickly recap, the additions for transportation are for 2 additional vehicles for the fleet. We're actually going to dispose of 3 older vehicles and then replace them only with the 2 vehicles at a cost of $110,000. In athletics, we have some additional coaching stipends that have been added into the budget for the sports that are listed there, and also some additional rental costs for fields that will be necessary when the construction on the next capital project is starting, totaling $22,500. And then for operations and maintenance, there were 2 titles for which an upgrade in the pay grade for those titles was proposed at $13,500. And then the majority of the proposed additions were for the instructional program. And the biggest change for those requests was a director of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which following many years of working towards these goals, we felt it was time to put that position into the budget, as well as adding some additional supports for counseling and social work to support our students. There were some reductions that were proposed as well, and those are mainly driven by just changes in section sizes. The net increase for the instructional programs is $239,000. So all of those changes have been applied to our budget totals, and this slide just breaks it out by the type of expenditures, from salaries and fringe benefits and debt service and BOCES costs. You can see it was not a significant change from what we initially proposed. And it is only a 0.65% increase budget to budget from last year to this year. The next slide gives you the breakout by the various program areas. And those dates on the slide reference the nights in which we talked about that. So that's your crosswalk if anybody wants to go back and look at those full presentations as a recap. On our revenues, we were able to balance the budget and provide the resources without proposing any increase in our school taxes. So while we had a nominal amount for the tax levy increase that we could have put in there, we just did not need it in the budget this year in order to balance that. So it's not a typo. $69,233,000, same levy this year as for the prior year's budget. And the state aid estimate, of course, we're waiting for breaking news to see when the state budget is adopted. That doesn't appear to be happening this evening, but based on the estimates that we have, we think the original estimate that we proposed is still valid, and that will be part of the budget at $28,019,000. And it was a phenomenal increase in our state aid. This was the second year actually, of a large increase in our foundation aid of an additional $1.5 million, which really helped fund so many programs for us. New tonight is the projection of our fund balance and reserves. So this slide shows a growing list of the reserves that we have as part of our fund balance within the general fund. New on here is the 2022 capital reserve, which the board had approved a few meetings ago, and this will be a ballot proposition. In order to set up these reserves, we need to have board approval and then community approval just to establish it, and then down the road, when we're ready to spend money from that reserve, we also require board approval and a community vote. Based on our current projections, we're expecting about a $3.5 million surplus in the 2021-22 budget. So based on some other changes in the various reserves, most of them have stayed the same. Just to highlight the teachers' retirement system reserve, we are proposing an increase up to $2.6 million on that. That reserve was permitted several years prior, and we are able to fund it at 2% of the baseline salaries, so that increase is in keeping with that threshold. So that would bring it up to $2.6 million. The mandatory reserves for debt are done as of the end of this fiscal year. Those were tied to outstanding debt on property that had been sold previously. There is no appropriation of fund balance because of the additional state resources that we had received. The undesignated budget is limited still to 4% of the next year's budget amount, and that is about $4.1 million. So we will be at that level when we close out our books at the end of the year. The difference in these projected amounts right now is projected all to go into that 2022 capital reserve at $4.2 million. So as we get to the year end and we actually close out our books, these numbers will change slightly, but this is based on the current projections. This also is a component of the property tax report card, which as you're adopting the budget tonight, you'll also need to adopt the property tax report card. So that lists the total amount of spending, the tax levy, the amount of the reserves, and then it includes a description of how the reserves are intended to be used in the future. Also, we tend to do our multi-year projections so that we can look ahead and anticipate if there are any concerns in our budget future. And as we had noted at our initial presentation, starting in the 2024-25 fiscal year, we will have a significant reduction in our payments in lieu of taxes because the PSEG pilot, which we have, the whole community has benefited from for the last 20 years, has finally come to an end. So that reduction in the pilot amounts is going to cause us to need to plan now so that we don't have an impact to the community with that change. When pilots go up, your tax levy under the maximum allowable tax levy calculations goes down. Conversely, when your pilots go down, your calculated tax amount goes up. So based on our estimates, it would be about a 9% tax increase 4 years from now in 24-25, which clearly is not a budget that we would ever put out to the community. So part of that planning, when I looked at our updated multi-year projection, is to show what we would likely do when those pilot amounts drop off. The projected future pilots, although we have a number of projects in the pipeline right now, none of them are of the magnitude of the PSEG pilot. So while we will see some increases over time, we're not really going to see it in the near or the midterm for the pilot amounts. For purposes of these projections, we did assume that our school taxes would be increasing 2% a year. That's sort of the expectation with the tax cap calculations. That's what the inflation rate is tied to. So with those increases factored in, I did want to highlight, so last year we had projected, based on this 2% increase, that our school taxes would be up to $72.4 million. We, of course, didn't need to do that increase because of the state aid and because our calculated tax limit was so low. But I wanted to just give a reminder that in this tax cap world, if we don't levy the amount per those formulas, you never get that back. So it is it's a permanent reduction in your tax levy amounts going forward. So we make it work. Every year is an individual year, but there is a compounding impact when you don't do those slow and steady changes in your tax rate. Okay. The expenditure projections were done looking at the usual increase in our salaries and our fringe benefits associated with those salaries. We schedule out the future anticipated principal and interest payments on our capital projects and other debt that we have, and then we apply an inflationary increase to the other expenditure line items to come up with those totals that are listed on the second row from the bottom. So in 23-24, based on those assumptions of what we know now, we would have a surplus of about $1.6 million. What we've done with surpluses in the past is we have funded them into our capital reserves so that we had a resource to go to in lieu of issuing debt on future capital projects. So in this midterm period, when we're adjusting to that $3.4 million loss in the PSEG pilot amount, it means that any of those surpluses are going to be earmarked as a funding source in the subsequent year's budget. So I think that is the most realistic way to address that shortfall in the future, while still keeping a lid on the tax rates for the community as a whole. Okay. Also included within the budget is the capital outlay. This is a mini capital project, and currently the limit is $100,000 per year, and that gets approved by SED, and then the money comes to the district not in a 15-year payment stream, but in a single year's payment stream. So the proposed project for this year are some upgrades to the high school cameras, and if the budget is passed by the community, this project is automatically funded within the budget. There are a number of ballot propositions, of course the budget itself, and then we will have our standard bus purchase proposition, and the proposition will ask the voters to approve 1 electric bus and 3 mid-size 45-passenger buses for a total of $821,000. We also will have a proposition to create the 2022 capital reserve. So again, if we have future surpluses, would like to have a great place to put that money so that we have a savings account to dip into in lieu of issuing debt on future capital projects. As you know, we're on a fairly steady cycle of every 5 or 6 years. We develop a new capital project, so this is a really productive way to earmark those funds. So that will be on the ballot as well. Also on the ballot, we have 2 seats that are available. These are 3-year terms expiring June 30th, 2025. And Jonathan and Wendy's seats are the seats that are expiring as of this June. Okay. So petitions are out there. Anybody who is interested in running for the Board of Education needs to have those submitted back to the district clerk by 5 o'clock on April 18th.
Hi. I just want to take a minute to state openly that due to some personal reasons, I will not be seeking re-election to the board at this time. Nature of my job has kind of dramatically changed recently, and there's just not enough hours in the day. And this board deserves a lot of time because it's an excellent school system. And I just want to thank everyone who has supported me in the past. And Bethlehem is continuing to be an excellent school district despite some pandemic pandemonium. And I expect it will continue to be an excellent district no matter who's on the board after July 1st.
I also am announcing that I'm not running for the board either. I have spent 6 years, 6 enjoyable years on the board, crafting some good things, not getting everything I wanted, but nobody ever does. I said when I was elected that if when I left everyone hated me a little, then I'd done a good job. And I believe that's probably where I ended up, so I'm happy with that. And I look forward to seeing the new board and how it's composed and how it continues to make Bethlehem one of the best schools in the state and in the country. I just had the opportunity to have both of my children home because of a loss in the community. Andrew Napierski passed away. He was a young man who went to school here with my son and others. And the group of students that came together then at first grade, and this is a group of boys that have been together now since first grade. And having the kids home and seeing how they have blossomed and grown because of the guidance and the leadership that this school has provided is something that I will always treasure. I didn't think I'd get emotional about this, but it really is important, and it's something that I hope the next people that sit in these chairs, that get elected come June, will put in the time that's required, the dedication that's required, and really take this job seriously, because it's not something that you do for fun. It's something you do to give back. It's something you do because it's important. And I encourage anyone that wants to seek these chairs.
Jonathan and Wendy, thank you both for sharing that information tonight. And I just wanted to, I'm sure we'll say it again before the end of the year, but thank you to both of you for your service on the board.
It's certainly a volunteer labor of love, and it does take a lot of time. So your efforts and your support are just so appreciated. So thank you. Thank you both.
You even made Jody emotional.
Well, that takes some doing, doesn't it? Judy, before you get off the hook, I have a question about, and I'm not meaning to reopen it, but we are spending, I think it was $163,000 to hire a director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. When we talked about it, I don't remember a discussion about what kind of rubric or statistical information we would be gathering that would help us, one, make sure that this is that we're getting what we're paying for. In part, it is a large amount of money, but that it's also a position that we are using to its best ability. And like I said, I'm not questioning the expenditure. I want to make sure that there are checks in there so that the board has the ability to look at it, towards the end of next year as they're looking at the budget and see, is this something that was worthwhile as it was constructed, or do we need to reassess it?
Do you want me to address? So when we were looking to add the position, we did some outreach to, there's not a lot of K-12 schools that have these positions yet, but we did some outreach to schools and who do have these positions, and also spoke to some others. Even other states have some of these positions, and it was recommended that the position be a district level administrative position, and we talked to a few people. So with that, that number does include salary and fringes, but we looked at what is a range we typically would pay for a district administrator, whether the, we did post it as either school district administration or civil service, because many people who are interested in these positions don't necessarily have the school district certification but fall under the civil service qualifications. So we think, based on the information we've received, that that's a reasonable range to go out. And obviously it will depend on level of experience as to where that range ends up, but it's in line with other district positions.
And again, I'm not questioning the money.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that we have, going into it, we have an idea of what we want to get out of it and a way to measure that, so that if we're not getting it, that we can go back and reassess what we want and how to get it.
Right, absolutely. I mean, with any new position, it's always hard because you think you know where you're starting from and where you want to go, but sometimes that doesn't always work out. We all know that.
Thank you.
I had asked and immediately forgot the answer, so I'm sorry. I'm asking the exact same question again, which is making sure that that person arrives with a budget to spend on all of the great work that they need to do. Is that reflected in the administrative budget or in?
No, Dave, you want to?
Yeah, no. If you looked at the baseline PD budget, it was increased by $25,000, which the budget already included some DEI work, but we increased it by an additional $25,000.
That's right. Thanks.
Set them up for success.
Yep.
So,
Nope, sorry, I was popping up with a question, if that's okay. If this is, okay, cool. Can you just, I'm so sorry, you're so, you are so well-versed in this. You explained very clearly how we were going to be addressing the shortfall in the out years, and I followed the first half. And then I'm going to admit to have gotten lost along the way. So I think it's on maybe page 16. Would you mind just going through that just one more time?
okay, yes. So we have our projections on our revenues going slow and steady on the tax levy. Part of the offset for the loss of the pilots, I talked about how we would take any surplus and we would appropriate that within the fund balance. I didn't specifically point that out, but that's the line that's in red text. So in the first year that we have a surplus, we would not obviously need to draw down on the fund balance, but we would earmark those monies in the subsequent year's budget. So in the first year where we have the reduction down to 0.5 or $500,000, we would be using around $2 million out of that fund balance, so that we would still need a tax levy. Presumably it would be around 2%. And it would be also funded by drawing out of that fund balance amount. You would need to do that for several years. Right. So again, because we do typically, we don't fully expend our budget. You know, we put expenditures in there that we think are reasonable and necessary for operating the school, but we have never held our staff to, you have to spend this or you're going to lose it, you'll never get it again. So we do tend to come in under our budget amount, and it's that amount which drives the surplus, and that's what we would use to go into our fund balance to offset that reduced pilot amount. So right now, those amounts have been going into the capital reserves. So you would likely see a lesser amount going into the capital reserve and more going into appropriated fund balance.
Beautiful. Thank you for walking that back. And then just one more time, you were also referencing how if you are not, if I understood you correctly, if we're not using, perhaps I misunderstood, if we're not taxing at a certain rate, then we are compounding problems in the out years. And I caught you, and I just was wondering if you would explain that as well.
So because the tax cap calculations are based upon your levy from the prior year, if you levy a lower amount, you're never going to be able to recoup that amount. So you're going to get an increase on that lower base.
Thank you.
And that's what I meant when, if you don't levy, you lose it.
Beautiful.
Again, not levying for the sake of levying. This year, we're going with a 0. Not that it wouldn't be nice to put some money into these future shortfalls, but because we didn't need it based on the inflow from the state aid.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much for walking that through. And my last question on this slide is, I'm guessing, you've referenced, and we've discussed a number of times, that we've had a healthy amount of state aid and foundation aid and federal aid this year. We're not building that in, those assumptions in the out years, right?
No, we
Great.
have one more year of about 1.5 million additional coming in foundation aid. For the purposes of these out year projections, I assumed only a 1% increase in state aid, because that typically has been around where we've landed in a normal year. The last few years have been extraordinary only because there was a commitment from the state to fully fund our foundation aid in accordance with the formulas that were supposed to be running from the Campaign for Fiscal Equity.
Beautiful, thank you.
So we've finally almost caught up as of next year's budget with that fully funded amount.
That's awesome. And then my very last question, and again, thanks for slowing it down for those of us in the back. On the, when you go to slide 20 on the budget development, when we're looking at the capital reserve that we're establishing this year, I think it's awesome to put aside as much as we can. I think it's great to, I'm just wondering, why go from 10 to 20 million? Just because we can, or is there some projection of need, or if you could just mention that?
We rather quickly funded up to the $10 million amount, and because of the process that we go through in order to establish that, I thought it made more sense to recommend that we increase that dollar amount.
Great. Cool, thank you. I just
And
wanted
since,
to.
at this timing where we are with this capital project, I mean, we haven't fully spent down the 2 existing reserves, so I just wanted to build in a little bit more buffer.
Thank you.
In the dollar amount. Yep. There's never a limit on questions on budget, because I could talk about it all night.
I appreciate it.
When it was originally created, we were in a budget lull. We weren't able to fund it as quickly, and then once we kind of caught up and we were out of that lull, it made sense to do like the higher amount, right?
Yes.
Because we've done like 3 of these now, right?
This is the 3rd one,
Yep.
yes. Yeah.
The question I have, I couldn't remember, did the percentage cap for the fund balance go up?
Nope.
No, it's still
at 4%.
4%. Okay. For some reason, I thought we had a conversation, it might be going up, or they're looking at it.
It's been requested by the Council of Superintendents, by the New York State School Boards Association, by the Association of School Business Officials, every other local, here goes the soapbox, indulge me. Every other local government can set a reasonable fund balance, and school districts are the only local government that are subject to this very low fund balance amount. When the state comptroller does audits, they seek to have more reserves so that you have some flexibility if your funding levels drop off or your expenditures drastically increase unexpectedly. The ratings agencies, whenever we're issuing debt, usually have a comment and a whole section of their report relating to fund balance. So 4% is a very low amount. The reasonable standard that the state comptroller's office tends to put out is between 10 and 15% of your budget. So in my opinion, and I'm joined by others, that the 4% is woefully low for school districts, arbitrarily low. So we would love to see that increase. I haven't started holding my breath yet, though.
Thank you. And we're putting aside that full 4% under what is
Yes.
projected here. Thank you.
Yes.
If that number is low, how, and we go back to the chart regarding the pilots,
We have 2 million in 24, 25, and 2 point, yeah. No, the
Next one?
The next one, yeah. And 2.5 and 25 to 26. Do we anticipate being able to continue to do that in 26 to 27?
Until those other pilots come in, or you have higher than expected state aid amounts, yes, you would need to.
Will our fund balance cover that?
Assuming we continue to generate surpluses each year by under expending the total budget, yes. So we have multiple tools that help us manage our finances. We never look at it 1 year at a time, so between the use of reserves, we could, of all those reserves that we have, remember we have reserves for pension costs, we have workers' comp, accrued, the employee benefits accrued liability fund. We have other places that we can tap into if we hit a bad year. So multiple tools available to make sure that we maintain good financial position.
And
not that we won't have challenges, but we do have tools to address it.
And it helps that you are very conservative in what you put in the budget for expenditures, so that we have a more likelihood that we are going to have money to put into the fund balance.
Our independent auditors have typically recommended that you come in between 3 and 5% under on your budget, so that's deemed to be the reasonable amount. So coming in usually close to 3%, we're well within that recommended range. I am nothing if not conservative, right? So. So the very last slide is just our future meeting. So the public hearing on the budget itself will be on May 4th. The Meet the Candidates night will be on May 11th. And then on the 17th is the budget vote, when the community will have a chance to decide on the budget and the various propositions. So that concludes the budget presentation, unless there are any other questions.
Thank you, Judy, and I'd like to thank you and all of the different budget areas for putting together what I think is a well-crafted, thoughtful, and financially responsible budget this year. I don't know if others have questions or any discussion they'd like to have about different elements of the budget. Now would be a good time.
Thank you for putting it together, and don't be too happy that it's your last one.
It brings me sadness that it's my last one.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
The Meet the Candidates night is on a Monday night, is that correct?
I think it's
Oh, wait, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at the wrong one, never mind. 11, Wednesday, okay. And, never mind, I got it, thank you.
And Judy, is there information on our website for anyone who needs an absentee ballot?
Yes, that whole process on how to get a ballot, essentially you contact the district clerk and she'll make sure that you get your application, and then once that's received, the ballot goes out. And the same exception that we've had all through COVID is still in place, so if somebody is not comfortable coming out in a public venue like that, they can get an absentee ballot as well.
And that's the same process, they just reach out to the clerk?
Yep, you just request it from the clerk, and once you document why you need it, it's mailed out to you. It's marked in our books so that you can't change your mind and come out and vote in person in addition to the absentee ballot.
Okay. Even if you love the budget as much as Judy,
even if you love it, you still only get one vote.
Only going to count once.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thanks, Judy. Next is our recognition of public comment on an agenda item. If we have anyone in the audience tonight who would like to address the board on an agenda item, now is the time to come to the microphone. Next, item 6, action items. A, finance action items. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the following finance action items 1 through 5.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Can, Holly, The sidewalk easement, can someone just talk to me about it? Because I couldn't open whatever the attachment was, and I'm not sure what we're doing.
Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, the
Okay.
middle school.
So at the middle school, the town, when they were doing repairs in the sewer mains in front of the school, while they had their contracting crews there, they moved the sidewalk that's on the same side of the street as the middle school in by about a foot. So because that was district property, an easement was required for that, so that is what they're presenting to us tonight. They did it as emergency work, so we weren't able to grant the easement ahead of time, but tonight, all the paperwork is ready and it's recommended for approval.
Okay, but they're not making them bigger?
No, they just moved the location, shifted it away from Kenwood Avenue.
Okay.
It is in a little bit, if that helps.
Yeah, it's in about a foot from where it was.
Oh, good, thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes. B is the 2022-2023 budget adoption. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following finance action items 1 and 2.
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes. C, professional personnel action items. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the following professional personnel action items 1 through 10.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes. D, support personnel action items. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the following support staff action items 1 through 16.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes. E, other action items. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the following action items 1 and 2. Actually, hold on.
Also 3?
3.
I have 3.
It should be 1 through 3.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes. Item 7, recognition of public comment on a non-agenda item. If we have any visitors who'd like to address the board on a non-agenda item, now is the time to come to the microphone. Item 8, future meetings and events. Our next board meeting, because it is April 6th, our next board meeting is on April 20, sorry?
I was just going to say after the break, 27th.
After the break.
Yeah.
On April 27th, that Wednesday, anticipating executive session at 6, and meeting reconvening at 7. And then on Wednesday, May 4th, we have our next meeting after that at 7 o'clock, anticipating executive session at 6. Seeing no need to go back into executive session, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. And if we have any PIG students in the audience, if you guys need a signature, just come on up and see any member of the board. Thank you.